Welcome to the Microsoft Security Insights Podcast with your hosts, Franklin Grimberg and Edward Walton, where we discuss Microsoft 365 security and Azure security news and products.
Recorded on Wednesday, March 17th, 2021. Rod Trent, how are you doing, my friend?
I knew you were going to ask that, but even when it comes up, it's kind of difficult to think exactly how I'm doing. What did I do today? Believe it or not, I worked on Azure Sentinel with some of our customers. It's not necessarily a rare occurrence, but anyway, that's part of the joke. Didn't go over really well. Nobody laughed, so I'll work on something else. Maybe my jokes will be off tonight. I have no idea. How about yourself, Nathan?
Well, it was a bit more quiet day for me, so just tuning a gray noise integration playbook for Azure Sentinel, and then lining up some other things too. In the meantime, a thought occurred to me. I see that you have like something in the back there. I don't know if it's coffee or tea in that thing there, but what type of beverage is that?
So I'm a big coffee drinker ever since college. Literally just drink coffee all day long. It's always coffee. I do like tea. I like Earl Grey because it's kind of a stronger taste, but yeah, I have to, and my coffee has to be really strong. I grew up, my uncle, he literally taught me how to drink coffee. He made the kind of coffee that you could literally stand up a spoon in the coffee. So anything less than that is just not coffee to me. My wife gets coffee regularly at some of those kind of, weird places. I just laugh at her that it's just literally just hot chocolate at that point because she's put so much stuff into it. It's not even coffee anymore. So, but yeah, coffee all day long. That's what I deliver a lot of workshops, literally talking 6 to 8 hours a day straight. And so that's what keeps my throat lubricated.
Wow. Yeah. There's days like that for myself, but there are days, like I was saying today, just downturn. And so for me, it's more just like canned water, like mineral water or something with like a little fizz to it. That way I'm not drinking calories, but I still get a nice little pop.
Yeah.
Drinking calories. Hey, so it's funny. I've been, I follow like synthwave music and all kinds of, genres of music, but I've heard about this like mixtape that's coming around. It's like an underground mixtape. And, have you heard about this, Rod, at all?
So a good buddy of mine, for those that have never heard of this, in fact, all of my customers, I always promote this individual's YouTube channel. So he still owes me money for that promotion. So I'm glad he's here. We can address that while we're live. If you've never seen this YouTube channel called Teach Jing, so the word teach with his first name, Jing, lots and lots and lots of awesome Azure Sentinel and particularly the KQL stuff, which, KQL is one of my things. I love KQL. I dream about KQL. But lots of Azure Sentinel KQL stuff out there. If you've never visited this YouTube channel, you absolutely must subscribe. But he has other talents other than, and he'll, Jing, I want you to tell the story.
I can't. I got to tell the story.
Because I don't want people just to think that your only skill is drinking. So you need to take the story to the next level. But anyway, this is Jing. Go ahead and introduce yourself. And
hey everyone, my name is Jing. Can you guys hear me?
Yep. Nope.
Yeah, I'm just I'm a geek like you guys. I like to lab out, and I'm in security compliance with Microsoft, and I enjoy Azure Sentinel as well. KQL is like, once you master it, it's like looking into the Matrix, like Neo, right? It's like you can see the code. So yeah, it's fun stuff.
So the reason why Jing is here, and I mentioned this to a couple folks, and you have to tell a story. I'll let you tell it here in a second. But he approached me with this, I don't know, was it like a month or about 6 weeks ago, maybe. He's also quite the poet. I think maybe his next life skill, his next job, he might be an actual rapper. But I promised everyone there would be some kind of worldwide debut tonight. And
All right.
Jing has this. If you'd like to kind of lead in with the story of how this came about, I think everybody would love that.
So yeah, like Rod said, I was drunk, and and it's one of those late night times when it's like 2 a.m. You've been just trying to write some queries and you just can't figure it out. And then I got drunk, and then I started, those little spheres, like those little sphere things you put in your whiskey. So I had a couple of those. I don't know how many. I have a lot of spheres. I'm surprised I have so many spheres.
You don't have any left, is what you're saying.
No. And then I started writing, and I didn't think I thought it was okay, but I started trying to rap it, and I was very bad. I am not a rapper, but I think I'm a ghostwriter, because when I sent it to, I looked up on Fiverr. I was like, let me find somebody that can rap. I found someone that was willing to rap, and then I paid him $100, and he sang, he threw a beat on it and said, these are really good lyrics. You just needed a good beat and soundtrack. And now, I don't know if you guys will like it. Rod liked it, but I don't know what the public will think. And I'm working on a music video, and that's the story.
So that's awesome. So he's really kind of minimizing what this is actually, because I think it's awesome. Obviously, he doesn't trust my judgment, but other people have said that it's awesome. And this is literally, oh my goodness, once you actually hear this and hear the lyrics, this is like the security workers anthem, right? And, it could actually kind of be the theme song for this show eventually. Who knows? Of course, obviously the royalties we have to pay. But anyway.
Yeah.
So if is everybody ready? Did anybody any other questions about this? I know we could probably poke and prod and say, okay, Jing, there's more to this story, but I think that's probably the safest story you have there.
I want to hear the state video, man.
All right. So when is that video coming out, by the way, if I could pressure you for a date?
Good question. You see I have a green screen behind me, so it's gonna be part of the video, right? I'm trying to think of some things. Rod gave me some good ideas, but I just keep getting good ideas, and I can't, it's just when you just keep thinking about it, you just never do it. So
yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to create a Logic app that sends you an email like every 6 hours that asks you for the video. How about that?
Okay, please.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I think very soon. I would say very soon.
I think we should debut this song.
How about this? If based on the feedback of the crowd, it will come sooner.
All right. So
it'll motivate me.
Yeah, I'm sure. And so what's your GoFundMe page? Did you have
No, there's no GoFundMe.
Oh, okay.
It's just show support, and comment. Get on this podcast, get on my YouTube, show support, build up the community. Let's make it big.
We'll include your YouTube link in the show notes, by the way. So
appreciate it.
And are we ready? I think this is enough build up, right? Is this pretty good?
I'm excited.
I feel pretty comfortable. Chris?
Oh, yeah, let's do it. I want to hear it.
Okay.
All right.
Here we go.
All right. So let me do this. Let's share my screen. I'm just going to try to clear my desktop so you don't see anything. I think it'll work. You share sound, so let's just see if it works.
Yeah.
Here we go. Can you guys see my screen?
See a stormy.
Yep. All right. And I'm going to play the video. Can you hear it? Did you hear it?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Here we go, guys.
Here we go.
Hey, another vendor just got breached but it won't be the last company. Ay, next victim, let's see. Could be you, and it could be me. Listen up, carefully. I'm here to help you, yeah, I got the strategy. Learn cyber, security, all the concepts and methodologies. You gotta try to balance the security. Don't inhibit productivity, true indeed. Otherwise, shadow IT, where they break your policies. MFA authenticate, validate who they say. Intune manage, not enough. Passwordless, ayy, yeah, that's the stuff. Move GAs to the cloud, no GA on the ground, so that when you are breached, cloud assets are never reached. Make them use secure PCs so actors can't access these. PIM would be nice before reaching the secure device. All them servers update to the cloud, migrate. Patch the bugs, CVEs, fix them vulnerabilities. Please don't federate, actors will infiltrate. Assume breach, it can happen. When it does, plan to trap them. Detection, visibility, light it up so you can see when actors move laterally with all your SAML keys. Protect your data so they can't see what you're doing in the company. Enforce it with DLP. Stop all the mass copies to the USB. Watch your certs, master keys. Store your creds away from me. HSM not locally. BitLocker, encrypt the C. Developers listen please. Bring them early security so they can do threat modeling. Find them gaps that you can't see. Red team, exercise. Blue team, make them rise. Learn about the attacks, about how to fight back, so they're ready when it comes to mitigate, overcome. Learn about what they did before you logged all of it. Automation set you free. Use the bot you oversee. Use AI, machine learning, train models with the entities. Azure, Sentinel, that's where logs will flow. Charged by data rate. Purpose, aggregate. Then it correlates. AI, they activate. Looks around for mistakes, not normal. Mitigate. So much data we can see. Naming hashes and IPs. Bad actors, APTs, indicators, IOCs. Teaching is what I do. Helping others, helping you. Please subscribe, it's for free. Be notified, support me, yeah.
That's it, guys.
That was amazing. The lyrics were fantastic. Like I loved it.
See,
Yeah?
see,
All
I
right,
was
all
right.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
I can't believe you
good.
wrote that. I mean, I was like, that's really good. It all sung really well, and yeah, the rapper was pretty good too. So
Yeah.
Covered the entire gamut if you think about InfoSec. Just anywhere from encryption to detections to, you name it. I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm actually considering maybe, Jing, you should rewrite all of our workshops in rap.
Yeah. Okay.
I'll do one.
You gotta give me more scotch and whiskey. You know?
More scotch and whiskey. I think we could accommodate. Yeah. But that's awesome. I think it was awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I want to introduce our second guest as well, too, who's been kind of hanging out, listening to the song as well. Chris Boehm, who's a senior program manager here at Microsoft in our customer experience engineering team. Chris is based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, with his wife and 3 dogs. Been working at Microsoft for the past 5 years. He started with Active Directory Rights Management Services. Wow. And then now supporting Azure Sentinel as a senior program manager. Chris, what is going on today?
It's been a roller coaster, all the way from managing the engineering development of, for example, our demo environment. We have a lot of things in the pipeline, so we're getting ready for that. And all the way to helping out customers in need. So we're trying to figure out how we can make the product better every day. So,
Yeah. Speaking of that demo environment, do you get
I
a
knew
lot
you
of...
would bring it up.
Nah, no. I'm just trying to pick out the interesting. No, I'm just kidding.
No, go ahead. Shoot, I've heard everything. So.
Well, I don't use the demo environment. I have my own demo environment, and you probably obviously know why. But do you get a lot of feedback on that demo environment? Well, actually, I would imagine you do. What's the best way to put this? What's the most irksome comment or request you've had about that demo environment? If those
Probably,
people are watching now, you're going,
yeah.
stop asking me that question.
Oh, no. And you're right. I know exactly what I don't like about our demo environment. At the same time, it's like, how do you make everyone happy? For example, I have to make a salesperson that doesn't really know how to explain technology, walk through a scenario, and not be very technical, and have the ability to kind of go through a click-by-click program of saying, hey, this is what Sentinel is, which is extremely hard, as most of you guys know on this call. Sentinel is such a broad subject that it can make a salesperson scared, literally, to have that presentation and conversation. And then, of course, I want the guys like you on the phone to be able to go as deep as you want and have logs and play with things. And I have to give so much flexibility, but at the same time, I have to think about security, surprisingly enough. So I have to think of, okay, well, I can give everybody certain types of access, but I can't give them access like global administrators to the whole entire tenant so they can do whatever they want. So I would love to give everyone MCAS capabilities and MDE and everything, but it's just not realistic today, unfortunately. So
Yeah.
I would say the number one ask is, like you asked, is, hey, can I have access to the Office M365 products? That's always a big ask. And then the next part is how can I integrate my own stuff into your environment? I'm always happy, but at the same time, it goes through a lot of process control changes. So it's another challenge that I'm working on improving with Azure DevOps.
So is that where you spend a lot of your time then, or is it, because I know you work, so most what I know, certain individuals, they focus on certain areas. Is there one area, I guess, that you're most focused on? Or is it pretty much wide spectrum?
So for me specifically with the demo environment, it's everything. So I take care of ASC, MCAS, Defender for Identity, Azure Sentinel. If you look at my title and what I handle, I am an Azure Sentinel specialist, so to speak. So I talk with the engineering team, I manage them. I technically manage the Sentinel demo, but at the same time, there's no way I can keep on top of all of it. So I do leverage other people on my team and in the engineering team as well. So it's not an individual like all me. I do even have people who like work with me directly to help automate and keep this somewhat under control. And it's not just one environment. We're trying to scale it to across multiple environments. Like we even have AWS, GCP. We have multiple things in there that you may not even realize it because we're integrating with ASC, for example. So we even had single sign-on capabilities that connect to multiple platforms. And it's the complexity when you start trying to tie it all together. You're like, how do we make sure that no one compromises us, and at the same time provide insights to all of our security capabilities? And so it's kind of scary if you think about it. But
yeah, I think in a real world, you almost need kind of like a throwaway environment somewhere that people can access. And
yep, and we're looking at that, by the way. We're looking at having like a playground environment that anybody can have access to. Log Analytics used to have one, if you guys are familiar. They kind of have one again today, where you can search logs and look at things. The downfall is one, it becomes like, is it really logs relevant? Heartbeats you can only do so much with. Certain things you can only do so much with. People want real security logs, real events, and I would say in the next 3 to 6 months, things will be a lot better for customers, hopefully, depending on how things develop. So
yeah, I use that playground a lot for my KQL workshops.
Cool. I did the same thing for my own team when I taught them KQL. So
yeah, it's all good stuff. KQL, it's the best of the alphabet soup.
Speaking of KQL, I was just thinking about this when Jing was introducing himself, and this is just open up for anyone. I always feel like there are some really rock solid KQL patterns, if you will, right? There's like hundreds of different KQL functions, but there are patterns that you start kind of learning as you're developing queries. Are there any, this is open for anyone, are there any KQL patterns that you guys have recently seen or just love to use, whether it's like time series insights, and then kind of the value that you've seen out of those KQL patterns?
Good question. Yeah, that's a difficult one.
I can chime in on that one. It depends on the scale of the, like, I think of it from a customer point of view, because I deal with some very large customers. So a lot of our customers seem to be driven around having like a dynamic list that they can update. So watch lists with Azure Sentinel, for example, is a great reference tool. At this moment, if you guys are aware of it, there is limitations to it. It's not as pretty and perfect as we'd like it to be. Of course, we're working on it. But I would say the thing that I've been seeing as a more concern and more of a challenge and more of a theme recently has been more around performance utilization and configurations. So it could be an IP lookup capability that's built into log analytics, or it could be I think there's a query called materialization. I don't know if you guys have used that very much, or that helps with the performance of Kusa queries. So instead of you doing multiple lookups, you can look up the set like you look up this set amount of data, and then you can parse it out 20 different times, for example, which can really help out with the performance of looking at your logs. So that seems to be the main theme that I've been noticing with more customers is how can I really fine tune it to be really quick and efficient? Because the logs, I'm not kidding, I've seen them like 5 pages long. They have these massive queries that they're running via API or even in Azure Sentinel, for example, from an alert detection mechanism.
And that makes sense, right? Because from an ingestion perspective, there really aren't any limitations on the ingestion per se, right, into Sentinel itself. And so when you can unlimited ingestion, right, without any kind of like limits there, you start building terabytes worth of data sets, especially for some of these large enterprise customers. And that's really good. I'm going to have to look up that Materialize and play with that a little bit. That's going to be some homework for me this weekend.
Yeah, for sure. It's fun. You should check it out.
I'll dream about it tonight.
Yeah.
I would like to add one thing I've noticed from my end is, there's a lot of customers that are basically they want to just see what's out there. And when I talk about a syslog collector and you got to build it out, they said, well, I didn't have to do that before. I didn't have to build a syslog collector. I just send it to, the SIM, and he takes care of everything. And I said, what you think about that? There's an advantage to that. If they give you a really nice experience of not having to manage a syslog collector, you can't parse the data. So you're just paying for that ingestion, right? Mm-hmm. So if you have a syslog collector, you can actually cull the data at the collector. You can parse the data there. So I managed to help customers turn their ingestion of like teardowns, built-ups, connections established, all these noisy logs that they don't even really use. So then it goes down significantly. And then they kind of see when they do the calculation, and it knocks down 30, 40% of that ingestion of just things they're not really using. They're just like, whoa, that's a big savings, and then you kind of scale out to even larger customer. That's huge, right?
Yeah, so. That's a really good point. I was just kind of looking at this today. What did I do with it? We were kind of joking around the 5 stages of Azure Sentinel pricing, kind of like the old denial, anger.
That's like grief there. Yeah.
So we've got denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. They all fit. But it's exactly what Jing said, is because a lot of folks have experience with those old mentality scenes, those old legacy things where they're just like, I'm going to collect everything. And maybe I'll expose one thing out of this, massive sea of data, but at least with Sentinel, we can parse it and correlate it before it gets to the cloud. And at that point, that data actually becomes something valuable, and we can analyze specifically what it is versus just kind of having to throw the entire, bank account at it. Right. So yeah,
I have a question around that. How many customers, or the customers that you guys are working with, are leveraging ADX alongside Azure Sentinel? Is that a common theme, or is it more of a new kind of conversation?
It's a common interest.
Okay.
But at least with 2 of the customers that I have, they are utilizing it. But I've worked with a lot of customers, and it's like I said, right now it's a small percentage interest. So I think it's coming along, and it'll be more important, as I would hope, and I'm probably pretty sure, but it would be a bigger integration in the system where you just click, let's send stuff to ADX versus how it is. How you have to deploy it now. So
that's true. There is a challenging factor to the where you have to almost deal with third-party sources to ingest into ADX right now, like Logstash, for example.
Yeah.
There's a connector for that. although I think that is the goal. That's kind of the challenge. Log Analytics does provide that capability. They're helping with the agent. They built that out. They have a dev team for it. ADX is like, here's our platform, enjoy kind of thing. So I agree. Technically, you can stream it all from Log Analytics, Azure Sentinel to ADX. I think that's available today already. But then you're technically being charged for it already. So you use it as a long-term solution if you want to. But it has been, for example, I have customers that are looking at over, let's just say 5+ terabytes a day. When you're looking at something of that scale, let's say 10 or 20,000 firewall switches and other things, a lot of that's noise, but they want it from compliance purposes. So due to that complexity, and they want that from a compliance perspective to store it for a long time, but they want all of their security teams to have access. Solutions have come up with, like we've come up with from a team perspective. ADX is probably your best solution. You don't have to use Logstash, you can use other things. It's just an API call, but you can. That's what we're suggesting. If you want to have the quick KQL capabilities to have a structured data set and use Log Analytics, Azure Sentinel, and ADX.
Well, they almost need, and this is something I've raised before, but like a cloud ingestion layer before you hit Log Analytics Workspace in Azure Sentinel. Almost like event hubs, or really like Logstash, right? Something that's cloud native. It's an ingestion inflection endpoint, and then you configure your inputs, configure your filters, and then configure your outputs. So that cloud native scale and capability, where you could say, hey, I'm ingesting all this traffic from a snort firewall or something. I don't need it in Sentinel per se. I need it in long-term retention storage. But these other logs that I have, from my SaaS provider or something else, I do need those into Sentinel. And it's kind of brokering layer at the beginning of that pipeline. That's cloud native.
As long as ingest into that broker layer didn't cost anything.
Exactly. So you're starting to run into cost factors
for it, though. Yeah, you'll have compute charges for it, no doubt. That's the trick, right? Because today it'd just be Logstash with a load balancer in several Logstash services or servers running in the cloud doing those things. There's not a free way to go about doing that for sure. That's a great point, Rod.
There is things that like you can look at one today, for example, and this is still a relatively new product. A lot of customers aren't fully adopted on it at this moment. Is the new Log Analytics agent, the AMA agent, if you've heard of it. They do have in preview today data collection rules. So data collection rules do allow you to manipulate the data, kind of like what you're talking about, and saying when data comes in, if it has the following fields, I want it to go to this workspace or this workspace. Now, the limitation today is I believe it's only around AMA agents. So in the future, I do agree with you. It would be much more beneficial for us to offer the capability to split up the data in an ingestion pipeline perspective. And I think it's unfortunately so vital to have the ability for customers to filter on even the system level. So for example, I may want all security events, as you guys are aware. You can configure security events. You can have a pool and pull it all together and then send it from a server. There's lots of options, but customers want to get pretty finite. Like if you ask a large customer, they're like, I want to get down to the exact detail. Like if it has this VP name, then I want to collect it. Well, they're like, that's tough, right? You have to literally look at the XML data on the security table and say, pull it out and extract it and push. True, you can get fancy with your coding and other things. But we're like, how about we get it down to filtering down to just the event tape, like event ID, for example. So we can do that today to a limit. The AMA agent actually does support security event filtering capabilities. So we're going in that direction. Hopefully it'll be mainstream and it'll be the future in probably the next 6 to 12 months. So I'm hoping things will be better from a data ingestion perspective.
No, I mean, it's already great if you think about it, right? Like we've got agents, so we can run those on servers. We can run those in containers too.
Yep.
We've got syslog and set. I mean, we've got, pretty much everything. I think it's just, as you think about products being cyclical in its program development, there's opportunities, I think, eventually to build maybe a cloud native ingestion layer or brokering layer there, potentially, right? And potentially maybe it doesn't make sense, right? Because Rod brought up the compute and cost, right? Because
in a perfect
require compute somewhere to do all that processing.
But it's just like mentioned, you could save 50% for a small compute cost. I would totally pay for that if I'm ingesting 5 terabytes of data, knock it down to 2. So
Right.
there's no brainer in my opinion from a CISO perspective. Pay for it.
And I think that's where that layer would help, because the AMA is great, right? But it is constrained to the servers and the operating systems. Your network virtual appliances, stuff that's syslog or stuff forwarding in there, or even third-party SaaS providers and API calls, bringing that data from a SaaS provider like Google Cloud or Oracle Cloud, those audit logs, that stuff's a bit trickier, right? Because you can't put an agent there to filter on that data, and that's where I see the hang up, especially from like a product called Corelight, right? Which in the back end, it's got like, I believe it's either Zeek or Bro. I'm forgetting which one. But right, so it's going to be massive packet firewall level logging that you're just forwarding straight in, and having that, like you're saying, right, to filter certain things out and just bring the alerts in would be really beneficial.
So I have a solution. Everything in Azure. So forget about all that other stuff. Forget about ingestion. If we could just get everybody to use Azure for everything, there'd be no ingestion costs.
You'd be up and running in 5 minutes. It'd be that easy. So,
you're not trying to get Google logs because you're not doing big data or big query in Google, right? That's just not the reality, though, right? Because we're seeing a lot of enterprises adopt a multi-cloud strategy around certain product services and speciality being delivered through those product services. So. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, and I get it. If I don't want to have all my eggs in one basket, so to speak. So I may want to have this here. At the same time, I'm not trying to talk bad, but I have, like I said, I am a GCP, AWS, and Azure. I have to admit, I love Azure in comparison. And I'll admit it. Before I joined Microsoft, I even told the guy when I was hiring, they're like, well, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I migrate people away from Active Directory into GCP. That's what I do as a vendor." So they're like, well, we're going to change that. And my attitude has truly changed. Like after being exposed to Microsoft, it's amazing how much like my eyes opened up from a technology perspective. You think you're smart until it's just like, wow, I just found out a lot more. Blue screen to desk, everything. It doesn't matter. I've learned so much more about the product. That it really changes my point of view. So.
Yep. I came from AWS myself. So absolutely. And I have the same viewpoint at this point. I'll leave it at
that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things that I saw recently, and this was probably a couple months ago, but I was integrating Google Cloud's logs and servers into Azure Security Center, because at that time it was a public preview. But what was interesting, right, was when you got into the Google Cloud portal, the search functionality, right? Now, when you hear Google, what do you think? You think a search company.
Search engine, right? Exactly.
Right, yeah, search engine. And so I'm sitting there typing out a couple things, pretending operating as if it was the Azure portal and going, hey, I want to look up the specific VM name. I want to look up this virtual private cloud VNet, right? And it's returning no results. And I'm like, well, wait a second. I can only in the search bar call services and third-party marketplace items, but I can't call my actual resource names or things in there. And I was just thinking, it was like, oh my gosh, Azure portal search, powered by Azure Resource Graph in the back end, this is more performant, faster, and it's a better search experience. And here it is, Google Cloud, and you're thinking this is the search, right? You're like, well, those are some of those early adopter advantages, right, that come into play. I think that, AWS was able to capitalize since they were the first cloud company, and that Azure's been able to capitalize as we were the second cloud company to really kind of do it at this scale.
Yeah. Well, it's really multiple approaches to cloud operations, all of them, right? So even, which we never talk about anymore, IBM still has their own cloud, by the way. Just thought I'd throw that out there. But yeah, it's all the same. It's all talking about the search thing. I thought it was just so screwy for so long that Azure Sentinel, all we could do search and incidents was just, the incident number. But now, even stuff like that, just kind of these small nuanced enhancements that it just makes the experience just absolute, in my opinion. So yeah,
I
just
agree.
attention to detail.
I think that's where we're really trying to take that next step with Azure Sentinel. So we're trying to make that machine learning AI like fusion, insights, all those key terms you hear of. We're trying to build that in there so that and most people know from an instant response perspective, there's people, the skills out is limited out there right now. I mean, I know people who's like, we're trying to hire a guy just so we can manage Azure Sentinel. I'm like, that's crazy, and they've been trying for a month and a half now. It's like, okay, I get it. The skill set is limited. There's not many people out there. It's a new product too, but you have to know all these different skills in order to really be a master at Sentinel, unfortunately. And that is a challenge, and they're working on it. Like if you guys have seen, they're working on certificates and other things. Like so that's our future path of having like that security certification at Microsoft and having a more of an insight experience to enrich and empower with all of our Microsoft products, not just Sentinel, but Defender and Office 365, everything. So hopefully, I think it's going in the right direction. I'm pretty proud. Like, and that's why I can talk so passionately about the product. I'm pretty proud of how we've changed in the past since I first heard about the internal product name 2 years ago. So I'm enthusiastic.
Yeah, and that's awesome. Talking about the different levels of customers. So, I've worked with obviously the ones who've had long time experience on premises, those legacy tools and things like that. But and you maybe talk to this because I think this is important for a lot of folks to understand as well. By the time I get to a customer, a lot of times we've made it so easy to stand up Azure Sentinel. We made it so easy to connect the data connectors. By the time I get to the customer, they're like, halfway done.
Yeah.
Right? We've given them, and a lot of times my efforts with customers these days is not really, even though I use the product to teach them this, it's not really about the product. It's really about teaching them how to actually be a security operations center, right? In relation to how you use Azure Sentinel to do it. Because again, we made it so easy that it's just like this really easy program to click through. And now what do we do? How do we figure out where we have compromise and threats and things like that? So
yeah, one thing to be a SOC.
One thing I want to mention is I would like to get your thoughts, Chris. I was learning, around the Solera gate, I was learning about the DGA. The first time I ever heard about DGA, domain generation algorithm, right? And, for everybody that doesn't know, out there, domain generation algorithm is basically random domains that spawn based off of algorithm, based off of seed, right? And if you're trying to blacklist a domain and it just changes because they're using the periodic table or a Pokemon, whatever it is, as a seed, they just generate and just keep finding a seed, a DNS net record. How do you block that? How do you maintain a blacklist of just all these domains, right? Well, if you have ML like Fusion, as Chris was talking about, and I would like your thoughts around it, is if you know ML and you build a understanding that this process only talks to these IPs for the last month, and then you update it, but then now it's talking to new IPs, new domains. That is abnormal behavior. That can be surfaced, right?
Yeah, for sure. So we provide insights into the tool. So there's different layers of insights. So there's I would say basic ML, or you could say even automation, I would say. And like you stated, you can say, hey, I want to learn, and you could do this through a script. You could do this through even logic apps and using you can just build a list dynamically and learn and provide that, like update your watch list, for example. Say, this is my watch list, and I'm referencing this watch list, and this is the common IP address range that I talk to. Now, all of a sudden, this is running daily for all you know, or hourly. You can schedule it how often you want. Now, from there, you can reference that table on your alerts. So you can say your analytical rule is saying, hey, here's this is the names that we always talk to, or we're looking at our DNS or IP address range. And this is our common communication for our main app. Like this is where all the authentication of our banking is from. And all of a sudden, this weird thing comes up, we can detect it. So there's a basic way to do it, or you can do true machine learning. And that requires, and that's another skill that's, I would say, limited on the market right now, is like a data scientist building out this true algorithm and logic that looks over a couple weeks or possibly a month period of time. And there's multiple products that, like Azure Sentinel has it, ASC has it, a lot of products have it, but they're not very many because it's that hard to make, and they're almost too good. As the other thing, I'll warn you on there. I've had multiple customers that say, you guys have Fusion, you have these machine learning, but I never see it trigger. It's like 99 point something % accurate. Like, it's pretty accurate. And we're looking at maybe offering thresholds so you can see the accuracy or test it out. So we're trying to offer those solutions for you. But yeah, I agree. It's something that definitely can be leveraged. And if you have a very mature SOC, it's something that they do. They love to build a Jupyter Notebook machine learning algorithm that builds the science and provides you the visibility to see if it's an anomaly, and it even helps out their SOC team on the investigation experience. So
that's the same thing with IT. When nothing happens, you're doing a good job.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. Well, and I think that Fusion piece is important too, because I don't think enough customers realize exactly what is going on with that, because they're always like, oh, I know it's the Microsoft secret sauce. You can't tell me anything about it. It's all magic. But how many indicators are in there now? Is it, I forget. It's
14, something like that. I can't remember if it's that many, but we're about to add 30 more or something like that. I think they're I actually just caught the phone, weirdly enough, right before this call. So I asked what else I did today. That is another thing I did today. I was actually just working with the Fusion team on doing what I just said, is providing the ability to detect it in your environment. And we're going to post about it like, hey, you want to see Fusion trigger? Here you go. We'll show you how to attack your environment, and you can see Fusion trigger. It usually takes the machine learning takes some time, but you can run this script. It'll deploy, even do Fortinet, third-party stuff, and it'll automatically simulate the ability of what we're detecting for you, and you can see what it looks like. So that's what we're working on.
That'd be awesome, because a lot of customers are always like, well, if Fusion is doing it, why would I want to create an analytics rule? Or if I knew that Fusion did this, I could, not have to create this analytics rule or something like that,
Right, right. Yeah, that is true. And another thing is with Fusion, and I'm not afraid to hide it or anything, is it is limited on what it looks like too. So customers may say, I enabled everything in my environment, but they're looking at possibly Microsoft Cloud App Security, for example. And if you don't use Microsoft Cloud App Security, it's not really fusioning those, obviously the Fusion term, together with Active Directory. So you may not have the visibility, or it may not be combining those together and providing you that story because you don't have all the logs that it's looking for. So that's the other challenge that some customers miss, unfortunately. Or they may enable the logs because, like you said, we can enable things so quickly and easily now, but they're not technically logging anything. They don't even have audit logs enabled. So they're like, oh, I have everything connected. I hit the green button and hit connect, but I didn't configure things to actually log it, like Exchange, for example. Or it doesn't really matter. We can pull the data. If there's no data, then we're not going to pull it, obviously. So another challenge we run into.
Yeah, and that goes back to that cost thing. We make it so easy to enable things. Majority of my discussions over the past 6 months have been going back to customers who literally figured out how easy it is to connect data. And then they're like, oh my goodness. First, they're like really excited. Then they're like, holy crap.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had customers test out our, we make a statement that we can take in petabytes a day, and that is true. Trust me, I've seen customers ingest multiple terabytes very quickly in one day without trying. So it doesn't take much effort.
Yeah, well, because when you can literally ingest anything from anywhere in almost any type of format, that can, I don't think it's dangerous. I think it's just dangerous to the pocketbook potentially, or something like that. I don't know.
It can be.
Yeah, just have to be extremely careful.
Yeah, but just so anybody who is listening, you can set thresholds on your workspace. Yeah. So if you're scared of that, set a threshold. Just be prepared for it, and you can do gradual rollouts. Do the ring deployments. You don't have to do everything at once.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Chris, that's literally the two things I tell customers to do right when we start an Azure Sentinel project is, one, we're going to set up daily limits in the log analytics workspace. Mm-hmm. 2, we're going to set up Azure cost management and set up Azure budgets, and learn off that. And then 3, we're going to also set up a KQL alert for abnormal ingestion rates.
Those
People
are all great things, by the way. That's exactly what you should do.
Puts people at ease. It's like, this is step one, set up. No one wants that Verizon, emergency phone, phone bill at the end of the month. And so that's usually where I start customers with. Let's ease us in. Let's set up the things. And then it also gets customers thinking about also, okay, so if I'm setting up a budget for Azure Cost Management, what should that budget number be, right? Because a lot of times when you go into these POCs and stuff, customers, have they allocated a budget? What should that budget be? $500, $1,000 a month? A couple thousand a month? And then it opens up a really great conversation about that.
I agree. I think it's depending on the customer. Some customers are super ready. Like they're like, we already have the budget. We already know what we do. We have this other product. We're comparing the products. They're transparent about it. And they want apples to apples, which I will say we are not apples to apples. And the other scary part is migrations to a SIM to SIM solution can take months potentially, or even a year or so, depending on what kind of deployment and configuration and how much control you have in your environment. We have customers that have 100 customers under them, right? So they have to manage all 100 customers. It's just like Microsoft rolling out something. It's not just like, okay, we can push it out to everybody. We have to work with every dev team and everyone to work on together. And that's why we have dedicated teams inside of Microsoft, so we can all work together and make sure we secure ourselves appropriately. So it's definitely a journey, and it's usually they can be prepared if they're big enough, I should say. But I would agree. It seems it's a sticker shock to a lot of customers that don't have a SIM solution and they just want to enable something, and then they start pushing some things in and they weren't aware of it. So I think I agree with that best practice, is setting up the billing and setting up thresholds. Be prepared. You don't want to be shocked by accidentally deploying an agent to every Windows 10 client in your environment, and all of a sudden you're pulling mass security logs from every machine for some reason. So.
Are you talking about some specific customer when you say that?
No.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I tell customers. The size of the data does not represent the quality of the data.
Agreed. And it's hard, and that's another conversation that's really tough to have with customers. Is like, what data is justified? Well, to me, if I was sitting in an IR guy seat, I want everything. Like, you can't tell an IR guy, like, what do you want? They're going to say, I want everything. The more I have, the more I can see. It's so true. But at the same time, is it worth to have all the firewall logs there? Okay, message tracing is really cool. I can see where they got in, what they touched, what they did. But out of all those logs, petabytes or terabytes of logs, depending on the customer size, how much of it is being used? I don't know. The justification is up to each customer and what is important to them. So I just offer solutions and a proof of concept and say, here's the things you can do. And it's up to you deciding how you want to do it. And I'm sure that's the same with any SIM solution out there, because you can spend as much money as you want. And that's why budget is always such a big topic with Azure Sentinel, because it does make a big difference on what's used. And it's a neat thing to kind of segue into is leveraging other products. Doesn't even have to be Microsoft products. It could be any product. If you're using, let's just say, Palo Alto, for example, and it provides a threat or detection for you, maybe you don't need to have everything. Maybe you can just leverage the skills and things that you're paying for, feed that into Sentinel, and then if you have to, look it up on another platform. Is there like a database that it can have? Maybe you store it in that ADX solution, so you can look it up later in a KQL query. That's why you can start getting these really complex architecture designs on understanding where you want your logs to sit and how what's appropriate for your company. So it could be a fun multi-conversation campaign, I should say.
No, that's excellent though. You had some really good points there, particularly about, the Palo Alto stuff, keeping it, where it should be focused potentially, and not necessarily always forcing it to be in one single centralized location or whatever, right? A lot of that's pie in the sky type of operations, and just got to do what's best practice.
Yep.
Yeah. Very good. I heard that you've created your own connectors.
Yeah, so I've done a little bit of everything with Azure Sentinel. I helped Now my connectors are very basic. I didn't do like the AWS GCP stuff. I helped build the DDoS connector, which is really a walkthrough and understanding how to connect the DDoS, Azure DDoS specifically for Azure Sentinel. I did build all the networking workbooks. So every kind of networking Azure Microsoft networking workbook, I did build and design those, which surprisingly takes a lot of time if you've never built a workbook before. I've done a little of everything. It all depends on if I don't put my name on everything, so it all depends on what I work on. So
I will say those network security insight workbooks that you wrote for, like, I'm assuming WAF and Azure Firewall and those things.
Those are mine.
Old, right? Because like prior to that, it was customer would say, "Hey, how do I get the diagnostic logs, make some meaningful decisions based off of that?" It's like, okay, well, write a query here, do a query there, but then when those workbooks dropped, and I would encourage anyone who's using an Azure networking service like Azure Firewall, Azure Web Application Firewall with App Gateway or Front Door, you name it, check out the GitHub for network security. So if you just search network security GitHub, Azure, you'll find it. There are some really great workbooks there that just deliver great insights and then help customers drill down off of like network traffic flow and kind of not necessarily hunt, but just kind of visualize and make sense of all those logs that are kind of coming into the Azure file or the WAF. So really great stuff. And that's another great way. A lot of people sometimes ask, how do I learn KQL or learn workbooks? Well, just build something, maybe copy paste and then start tweaking some stuff. All those things are fully editable. So
oh yeah, I would say the one thing that I wish I could have done a little bit more, it's just not I guess appropriate because it's not our product, because it's Microsoft sponsored, right? It's our template. I would have done a lot more with third-party common tools. For example, just throwing out one like VirusTotal. Everyone uses VirusTotal in some form or fashion from a SOC perspective. I did originally have that in our workbook, but I got a lot of frown faces on that, just because of the fact it's not technically Microsoft driven specifically, and it's associated with Microsoft on the deployment of. But yes, I will say this as well. They aren't all the same because technically each team had their own feedback, and I kind of designed it around their feedback. The only one I truly had fun with myself was Firewall, because they're like, have at it, we don't know what to do. So Firewall is like 100% me. WAF was driven by the WAF team, and DDoS was driven by the DDoS team. So the DDoS has if you kind of go through it, it kind of has that integration aspect of you can see the last attack and kind of visualize the attack and see it all right there. It's kind of neat from a DDoS perspective, because there's no logs unless there was an attack, right? So I want to see like reference this last DDoS denial of service that happened, and I can see all the logs around it and kind of correlate it. WAF was really like connecting CDN, front door, web application, all of it together, kind of providing that holistic view. And then Azure Firewall, I had a lot of fun with. I actually even added my own investigation capabilities into it. So it even uses Azure Graph resource lookup. So you can click on an IP address or an FTQN and pull up all the IP addresses that talk to that FTQN, and then I can look at what machine was in Azure specifically, and then I can see actually the threats that were detected and all kinds of neat things. I kind of like correlate all on the same page, so it kind of helped out that SOC experience, which that's what I was thinking of. Like if I was here, if I was looking at the logs, what would I do? And I was like, I'll build my own investigation page, so to speak. Of course, it's tweakable and customizable, but yeah, I had a lot of fun doing it.
So would you say all the things you worked with within Azure Sentinel, that workbooks is your favorite area, or is there a favorite? Is there like one thing that you absolutely could not live without?
I would say playbooks, actually. Playbooks are more fun, in my opinion. Workbooks are like that. How can I put a puzzle together that I don't even understand the puzzle, so to speak? So I mean, technically, I didn't know much about WAF when I first worked on the WAF workbook. So I had to learn a lot of like how the logs look. And playbooks, it's that you can get so creative. Like I've had so much fun with playbooks, and I use playbooks myself, logic apps, for my own demo environments. So I do some automation in the back end. I connect into functions and pull here and manipulate the data and tweak it and push it, and you just start having so much fun. You're like, I don't know how this happened, but it all became this big tree and it's all working together. So it's an exciting experience. And usually when I have, like, if I talk to a customer and you see like what they do. For example, they get an incident response in, and they walk through like what they do when they get an incident response in, and I show them what a playbook can do automatically for them with a click of a button. They're like, oh, this guy literally connected it to ServiceNow, pulled all the threat detections that we just did manually, and I even got to pull up and report from that virtual machine that was in Azure and was able to provide that in here, all with a click of a button. And it could take like 30 minutes or so, but it's all done. So when the IR guy sits there and looks at it, they didn't have to do anything. There was no middleman. It was just all automated. So it's kind of neat when you break it down in that aspect. And I always see some eyes open up like, oh, this can make impacts in our company. And it's always cool to see. Like, I'm so happy that we can make a difference, and it doesn't even cost that much. That's the cool part too. So.
Yeah, I think because it's like low code, no code, and there's no VM running really. It's micro pennies per execution. So
exactly.
And that you're Chris, you're man after my own heart. Security automation orchestration. That's where I love to go. When I was asking where that is. So yeah, I'm totally jamming on that. What about you, Rod? Where would you say your passion is? I know you do everything. You build communities and newsletters these days. So where's your one thing in Sentinel that you without?
My one thing is literally hunting and in the KQL. That's my personality, right? I like to hunt for things. Chris was talking about playbooks and how creative you can be. That's one of my danger areas, because you start to go in there and start typing the name of a Logic App connector, and it's like a squirrel moment. You're like, holy crap, I can do that. Right?
It is.
Yeah. So I have to kind of stop. But so yeah, KQL is literally my thing. So jumping in, doing some hunting, looking for things. I would say, other than workshops with customers, that's probably the majority of what I do with customers. They're like, help us find this in our data, so it's looking at the schema, figuring out what we can query against, locating it in their environment, creating the analytics rules and stuff. So that's my one area. Other than I'm really enjoying the user entity behavior stuff.
Oh, EBA.
Yeah. And I hate to say it, that actually that is starting in a lot of cases to replace the security graph. And somewhat because, we've got the graph where it creates the kind of the storyline, our little octopus, and it's a little bit more difficult to read than it is for customers when they look at user entity behavior to see what a user has done over the past 30 days to determine whether they should have been able to do what they should have been able to do. I used to always love that security graph, but now UEBA is kind of taking its place.
I would agree. UEBA it's extremely powerful. Now you do run into challenges with UEBA, is because entities are everything to UEBA, obviously. So when you have companies that, for example, user behavior, Microsoft, as most people know who work at Microsoft, has one username associated to them for everything. Like I go in here and touch this, I go do this. That one username is associated to Microsoft. That is not common for most companies. Most companies, it's like, here's your service account for this, here's your service account for that, here's your service account for this. And all of a sudden, this one guy has 18 accounts, and they're all doing different things. They have access to different things. And UEBA, that's a tough challenge. So they're working on providing that as a solution for customers. Like, how can I correlate all these accounts based on an IP address and other things so I can know it was Rod who did this and provide that insights? And it's super cool. Like how things are changing for UEBA. It's getting more and more attention. I know it still seems like a little bit because there's only two major entities that it's looking at this moment, but it's going to keep growing for sure. And even across everything, we're growing on our visibility, and it's going to be more customizable in the future too. So that's
interesting.
Cool.
You say that. I was just off the cuff. I was talking to the Intune folks yesterday about how to group those multiple accounts and IP addresses to compliant devices in a way so that it makes it a little bit simpler. So.
Yeah, we're hopefully we'll fix that soon. So.
Yep.
Well, Jing, what about you? What's that one thing that you couldn't live without in Azure Sentinel, or that's your kind of jam to get into?
I would agree with Chris. I love playbooks. I'm a developer too, so I know Node.js. I like Python, PowerShell. I just play it all, and lately I've been on the PowerShell train. So, you know,
When you get on it, it's hard to get off. It's just like
Yeah.
you got that in your mind. You're like, I can do this. Even stuff at home, I'm like, I can automate that too. It's just fun stuff.
So here's what I did with PowerShell. So I bought a Chrysler Pacifica, and and it's a van. I'm a van dad, and but it's a hybrid, so it has like 40 miles it can drive distance. So I can basically, that's commuting to my grandma's house and whatever, and I just charge it every day, and I haven't had to pump gas. But it has 2 HDMI screens, so I kind of rigged up my own like Raspberry Pi, and then but then I wanted more power. I wanted Kodi, so then I got PowerShell, and I started doing things where if I plug it in, and I charge, if I detect my Wi-Fi, I want to see how can I find my Wi-Fi and things like that. There's PowerShell codes for all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I was like, I didn't have to code much.
Speaking of playbooks, Jing, you showed us something yesterday. It was kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Stay tuned, Chris. I don't know if it's what Chris has already wrote, but it's a playbook that will open up the incident comes in a Teams channel with a Teams card, with ServiceNow button, with a Sentinel button. It has drop downs with investigation. You can run playbooks from the flow. So the premise is like, Chris, I'm a security guy. I'm on call, but on-call guys don't go sit on the computer all the time.
Right.
If I'm at dinner, I'm on my phone. I'm like, maybe this is this secure device. It's my phone. It's my Face ID, and then I want to open up the ticket. I want to look at it, and then I want to run playbooks from the same channel. So I drop down, check, submit, and then I'm done. I don't have to log into anything. So that's the goal.
Isn't that awesome? Like after you see that, you're like, they have to go log in, figure this out, run the commands. They may have some Python scripting, they may have some scripting already, but it's so cool to have that visual experience, I should say, because I can, like you said, get an SMS message, and I can reply to an SMS message. It'll do something for me. So it's pretty cool.
The playbook also comments the ServiceNow thread, and I'm trying to have it close the whole thread. So I'm trying to do a thing to kind of like, if the incident, Azure Sentinel incidents close the corresponding ServiceNow ticket or something like that. But
if you need help with that, we've already figured that out. So just just ping me offline.
Okay, appreciate it. That's going to help a lot.
My favorite thing about the whole playbooks and automation is after time, right? Sentinel's only been around 2 years or so, but after time, a lot of these playbooks that were created are no longer needed, right? Like in the back end, they fixed it or solved some problems for it. And so the flexibility of playbooks you can really solve problems quickly. But then what's cool is like, oh, I can delete this playbook now from Sentinel's GitHub because it really doesn't need to be around anymore. Like they have now figured a way in Sentinel to enrich the data, or they figured a way to synchronize and close tickets across Microsoft security platforms. And so that's always cool to see. I mean, I feel like that's awesome. Like I had fun writing it, but then, okay, it's deprecated. There's no more need for this now. Let's delete it and get it out of there. Build something else that's new, kind of like Jing's talking about, with just some amazing utilization of like cards and teams to allow people to select things. It's truly impressive, people. And it just, again, if you haven't, go out to YouTube. I believe it's Teach Jing. Is that correct?
Yep.
Hit the subscribe button, and on his YouTube channel, he'll probably be dropping the playbook and some information around it on there, I'm sure.
Well, and his video for his song.
Well, yeah, that's true. The mixtape, if you want to get that too.
Well, and I don't know if you caught it earlier when he was talking. He was rhyming and didn't even mean to. So I'm pretty sure give him a couple beers and he'll probably have another song.
We're gonna get a second follow-up single. Okay.
Yeah. I'd love to. The next song is gonna be around ML and Fusion, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Or a rap song that literally walks through the logical steps for a Logic app.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah. Logic. Yeah.
It could be like the modern Dr. Seuss.
That's where I got my books. I read a lot of kids' books. I read a lot of kids' books.
There you go. Yeah. That would be so awesome.
Yeah, it would be.
Hey, so something that I think one question that's absolutely been on my mind, it's totally burning for you, Chris.
Sure.
Nathan mentioned earlier on that, so you live in North Carolina, which I absolutely love. I have a good friend of mine that wants to move there. He's currently in the Boston area, but you live with your wife and your 3 dogs. You have 3 dogs.
Yeah, I can explain that one. So the first dog we found on the side of the road, and after you see a puppy that's 6 weeks old, you can't say no, right?
Yeah.
We had to get him a friend, so we rescued another dog. And then my wife's parents decided, we're getting at a point of our life we want to move into an apartment. We're thinking about other options with the dog that we have, and we decided to take that dog. So that's why we have 3 dogs. I was not planned for the third one, but that's why we have 3.
So I'm
Kids and other
assuming
things
they're
in the
different
future,
breeds.
but
I'm
they are.
assuming
I have a lab, Aussie mix, a German Shepherd, Aussie mix, weirdly enough, and they're really cute, polka dotted kind of look. And then the last one, and the oldest, is a Yorkie. So he's.
Oh my goodness! I was going to say you had all real dogs, but then there's the Yorkie.
I know, right? Don't remind me. My wife would disagree. She would say the Yorkie's the only real dog. So.
Oh really? Yeah. Yeah. So we have 1 dog, a Maltipoo. She's a dear. She's an awesome dog because she loves me the best. But I was trying to think, do we have any more pets over the years? So I have 4 kids. So as you can imagine, over the years, every kid wants their type of pet. We've had it all. All the way from tarantulas to geckos to dogs, cats.
No parrot though, right? So.
No parrot. No, that would be too much noise.
Yeah. They don't die.
Yeah. Well, we have this gecko. My youngest son, he's getting ready to graduate college here in about a month or 2 months. So he's 21. We got the gecko for him. He wanted it for his, 6th birthday. That thing's still alive. And
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, we rarely feed it. That's the trick.
What is it eating? That's the question.
I don't know.
Bugs in the air, like.
Periodically, we just feed it some mealworms, and of course, it's got water. But yeah, every once in a while, I just go down there and check to see if it's still there. Yep, still alive. It looks at me.
Wow, that's incredible.
I'm really a good pet owner. I promise. It's not. I'm not. Yeah.
Every fish I've had died. Just saying.
Every
Fish are hard.
Yeah.
Fish are hard.
Yeah, fish are
you have to have that perfect climate for them.
I don't know.
But, I would say I agree. I like Boston, by the way. But the Carolinas have been beautiful. The cost of living is fantastic around here. The mountains are an hour this way. The beach is 2.5 hours that way. It's one of the top breweries places. If you like beer, you're not going to find a better place. Trust me. There's like 8 breweries, all craft brew right near me. I can literally go down the street and have some if I want. I enjoy it. I highly suggest it for anybody. And I think it was one of the top places to move to prior to COVID.
So Rod, we need to get you down here to Charlotte because I also live here too as well with Chris, and we can all check out some of these craft breweries.
Oh man.
And maybe make it up to Asheville, which is the mountains, as Chris is talking about, which has a lot more really great microbreweries there.
Really good, and then great with dogs too. I brought my dogs, and we all just chilled outside and had beer. It's fantastic.
So who drove home?
The dogs, so obviously.
Yeah. So I would absolutely love to. So I'm from Ohio. There's literally, it's just land around me. I can't go 2 hours and get to nothing. Okay. Other than more Ohio. That's about it. Just imagine this. I always think this is the most hilarious thing. To serve seafood in a restaurant in Ohio, just to me sounds like danger, right? Yeah. You're just asking for a stomach ache.
Frozen shrimp from Florida. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's been on ice for probably 6 weeks or longer. So.
Well, awesome. Well, as we're winding down here, I did have a question for Chris, right? You're living in Charlotte, have you ever ran into Ric Flair or Michael Jordan or anyone else in Charlotte, North Carolina?
I don't think so. No, I haven't ran into any celebrities. At least not that I subconsciously was paying attention to. That's always the challenge. You have tunnel vision most of the time when you're going somewhere. So,
Any celebrities ever?
I think yes. Weirdly enough, and I didn't know they were celebrities. That's the problem. Is I went to this was about 4 years ago. I went to Costa Rica for work. And when I got off the plane to Costa Rica, well, I noticed it before I got on the plane. I just didn't think much about it. But when I got off the plane, people started taking pictures when I got off the plane. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? And the whole entire U.S. Soccer team was on the plane. And people were taking pictures of them. I didn't realize it. So there were apparently some popular people there. And they were sitting right next to me too. I just thought it was odd as well. If for some reason, because I was so worried about the training I was delivering that week to all these fresh new people joining Microsoft, I didn't even think about connecting the dots until afterwards when people were flashing cameras in my face. And I was like, I'm not that popular. What's going on here? So that was a weird experience for me. But I don't, not really, no. I've been to LA. I've been everywhere. I've been to 49 of the 50 states. So, and I love traveling.
You look like a celebrity. Like you just got that look.
The look I get is typically Tom Cruise. That's what I.
Oh yeah.
I see it.
Get some sunglasses.
Yeah.
Let's finish it.
I don't think I have any with me right now.
And then say, yeah. And then tell customers, help me help you.
That would be brilliant. But I used to have this lady, back when I was like 18, there was this cafe, and every time I walk in there, she's like, Tom Cruise. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I used to hear it a lot.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I was trying to figure it out the whole time. Jing caught it. It's Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what it was. Yes.
I'm a little taller than him though, so give me that credit.
Yeah. Well, in a seat, it doesn't matter.
That's true.
You can't
I was thinking the Captain America guy. Who's that Captain America guy? Chris something.
Chris Evans?
Yeah.
Captain America.
Do you get Chris Evans?
No, I don't get that one.
Okay.
It's always been Tom Cruise, weirdly enough. I think it's just the way my hair is and just the smile. So
yeah.
I'm looking right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom Cruise. Yeah.
We should have built it. If I would have known, we could have built it as, Jing and Tom Cruise.
Oh dear.
Oh yeah, no.
That's all I need.
Yeah.
Well, by the time we come back next time with Jing, he's going to be, his celebrity will be up here at that point with his video. So we won't even matter at that point. So
Right. Yeah.
I'm just trying to educate through song.
I think it's a good idea. I thought the lyrics were fantastic. I can't believe how well you connected them all together.
Right?
I was even surprised about encrypting the C drive. I was like, man, he put that together so well.
Yeah. And I think my favorite. Yeah.
I think we should close out today's episode when we're ready with the song.
Oh, it's the song again, guys?
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
It's going to be overplayed, guys.
Come on, man. You gotta get down that.
All right. One more song. Here we go, guys.
Pulling that up, Chris. Anything? Last comments? Last things you want to talk about? Any plugs with Azure Sentinel or what's upcoming that you can talk about? That's not that's public.
Yeah, I can say some things. For example, data connectors used to be a big concern about Azure Sentinel. If you were there 2 years ago, we had like 20. It was not very many. Our goal, hopefully, and by the end of the year, is to have over 300. So it will constantly be growing very quickly.
Wow.
We are putting tons and tons of development hours into that, and that's just one portion of our team. So that's not even connecting like our Mystic team who helps with our detections, or it's just crazy how much interactions. That's not our UEBA team. That's not our ML team. That's a completely separate team. It's just data connectors. So Sentinel is a extremely hot topic. It's not just the security space. All of Microsoft is interested in it. So it has a lot of visibility, and it must be speaking for itself because our customer adoption is crazy right now. So we had a lot of praise for how well, and like Rod mentioned, it's so easy to adopt. It's scary how quick you can ingest data and get going compared to other products. No licensing, no nothing that. You literally put in, you have your subscription, you hit go, it's enabled, and now all of a sudden you can connect the data. It's so quick. But yeah, I think you can look at it now, and the next 3 months it'll look different, and of course in the next 3 months after that it's going to look different. It's just like any Azure product. You're just going to be truly impressed and amazed, hopefully. So
yeah, just need to put Tom Cruise picture up on the
Yes, please.
and a playbook that every time right before it runs to connect something, it plays Jing song.
You just got to tell a customer, help me help you. Just do that.
Help you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I need to start using that phrase.
Yeah. All right, guys. One more time. Is there anything else? Last words?
So thank you, Chris. It's been awesome. Thanks for all your discussion. It's I think been extremely helpful. I've already seen some comments on Twitter and other places that completely appreciated. So thank you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris. And next week we should probably have a return of our normal hosts.
They're gonna boot us out. Yeah.
And boot us out. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone that's been listening, chiming on Twitch. Really appreciate it. Again, every Wednesday, 6 to 7, Microsoft Security Insights podcast kicks off. And Jing, let it go.
Send us out.
All right.
Yeah. Yo, that's classic. Hey, another vendor just got breached, but it won't be the last company. Hey, next victim. Let's see. Could be you, and it could be me. Listen up carefully. I'm here to help you. Yeah, I got the strategy. Learn cyber security. All the concepts and methodologies. You gotta try to balance the security. Don't inhibit productivity. True indeed. Otherwise, shadow IT, where they break your policies. MFA authenticate, validate who they say. Intune manage, not enough. Password list, ayy, yeah, that's the stuff. Move GAs to the cloud, no GA on the ground, so that when you are breached, cloud assets are never reached. Make them use secure PCs so actors can access these. PIM would be nice before reaching the secure device. All them servers update to the cloud, migrate. Patch the bugs, CVEs, fix some vulnerabilities. Please don't federate, actors will infiltrate. Assume breach, it can happen. When it does, plan to trap them. Detection, visibility, light it up so you can see when actors move laterally with all your SAML keys. Protect your data so they can't see what you're doing in the company. Enforce it with DLP. Stop all the mass copies to the USB. Watch your certs, master keys. Store your creds away from me. HSM not locally. BitLocker, encrypt the C. Developers listen please. Bring them early security so they can do threat modeling. Find them gaps that you can't see. Red team, exercise. Blue team, make them rise. Learn about the attacks, about how to fight back, so they're ready when it comes to mitigate, overcome. Learn about what they did before you logged all of it. Automation set you free. Use the bot you oversee. Use AI, machine learning, train models with the entities. Azure, Sentinel, that's where logs will flow. Charged by data rate. Purpose, aggregate. Then it correlates. AI, they activate. Looks around for mistakes, not normal. Mitigate. So much data we can see. Naming hashes and IPs. Bad actors, APTs, indicators, IOCs. Teaching is what I do. Helping others, helping you. Please subscribe, it's for free. Be notified, support me, yeah.